Pastor Daniel Yeboah is the founder of Lightweight Church of God in Christ, a businessman, formal journalist, and a mental health professional. We provide the best of information from the Inland Empire and around the world that will bring elevation in your spirit, soul, health, relationship, and finances.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pastor Daniel Yeboah. I'm also a podcaster. I'm your host. Welcome to the Influence of Faith and Religion Over Money podcast. We bring you the best of information from the twin counties of Riverside and San Bernardino, popularly known as the Inland Empire, located in Southern California, USA, Ghana, Africa, and the whole world wide. That will bring elevation in your spirit, soul, mind, body, finances, and business. I'll also take this opportunity to also bring elevation in your relationship. I almost forgot that since we are talking about relationship. I'll also take this opportunity to introduce our guest. She's no other than my lovely, beautiful wife, Miss Jeanetta Yeboah, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and we know he has been on this show for a podcast for a couple of episodes. She come with a lot of experience since we are talking about race, culture, impact on marriage. She has great experience to bless us. Could you say hello to the people?
Hello, everyone. Such a blessing to be here. And thank you for having me, Pastor Daniel. I think it's such a great vision you have, this podcast, The Influence of Faith and Religion Over Money, because that's an important topic that
Yes.
impacts many families. So thank you for your vision.
Yes. Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. This podcast is produced by Lightweight Church of God in Christ. And Lightweight Church is a multi-ethnic cultural and racial church where people from uh, all diverse backgrounds are invited to fellowship with us, whether you are Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, Caucasian, African, African American. We invite you, if you live close to the geographical location of where this podcast is being shot from, the location is from the church located at the city of Redlands, and the address is 1630 West Redlands Boulevard. Suite J, Redlands is the city, and the state is California, USA. Zip code 92327. Our service on Sunday starts at 12 noon, and you could also catch us online. I believe our church online website is lightweightchurch.com. Lightweightchurch.com. We are on all various social media platforms too. Now, our topic today, we are dealing with a very important topic. We are discussing a most important and sometimes sensitive topic affecting relationships today. And the topic for this podcast is race, culture, and marriage today. Building bridges or building barriers. Race, culture, and marriage today. Building bridges or building barriers. This is a very sensitive and important topic affecting relationships today. The impact of race and culture on modern marriages. Our goal is not to judge any race, ethnicity, or culture. Every successful marriage is built on love, commitment, communication, mutual respect. However, race and culture can influence expectations, traditions, family dynamics, and even how couples handle conflicts. Let's explore both the positive and negative effects along with what current research tells us. Why race and culture matter? Why race and culture matter? Culture shapes how people view marriage roles. That means what each partner in the marriage should play, the woman and the man. Family responsibilities. And we know every marriage that come with responsibilities. So what is the role of the man or the woman in the marriage? Religion, parenting, finances, communication, gender expectations, conflict resolution. When two people come from similar cultural backgrounds, many expectations are already understood. When couples come from different racial or cultural backgrounds, they often have to intentionally discuss these expectations instead of assuming they are shared. Neither approach is better. They simply present different challenges and opportunities. I want us to look at the positive effects of cultural diversity in marriage today. One, broader perspective. Intercultural couples often become more open-minded. They learn different traditions because the man or the woman might be coming from a different racial, ethnic, or cultural background. They might be Hispanic, they might be Asian, they might be Middle Asian, Black, Caucasian coming together in this marriage. And all sets of race come with a diverse culture, different traditions, new languages, different holidays, various parenting styles, and multiple viewpoints. Children raised in multicultural homes frequently gain appreciation for more than one culture. Because I'm from the African background with mostly brought up in a very culture inclined perspective. And my wife is an African American, also with a different cultural perspective. So our children benefit from my African culture, and then they also benefit from their mother's African American culture. And that's what we are talking about. The children gain appreciation for more than one culture. And two, stronger communication. When couples come from diverse ethnic, cultural, racial background into marriage, they come with stronger communication. Successful intercultural marriages often require couples to communicate more intentionally because fewer assumptions can be made. You cannot assume your husband or your wife understands what your thoughts are. Many relationship experts believe this intentional communication becomes one of their greatest strengths. Three, rich family traditions. Families often celebrate multiple holidays and traditions. Examples could be such as Christmas alongside Lunar New Year, Thanksgiving alongside Eid, E-I-D, and I believe that's more familiar with the Muslim community. Hispanic culture celebrates celebrations alongside American traditions. African naming ceremonies alongside Western celebrations. Children often develop a broader cultural identity. For positive impact, greater cultural awareness. These marriages frequently help reduce prejudice by bringing families and community together. And we know prejudice are not always the truth as being used to describe a particular race or ethnicity. Many couples become ambassadors between cultures. So your wife begin to promote and bring understanding about the race or ethnic background that he is from, and the husband do likewise. But I will want us to acknowledge the sponsors of this podcast, so that if you need any services, you could also contact them. We have Shepherd Medical Drug Testing Collection Agency and a drug testing collection agency, and you could reach that on Shepherd Medical, Lab.com, Shepherd Medical DNA Testing Collection Agency. You could read that on shepherdmedicallab.com. And then we have Hope and Redemption Counseling Center, Yeboah Family Therapy Services, Yeboah Kwesi Farm Mango and Vegetable Producing Farm located in Ghana, West Africa. Help for Future Leader Veterans Program, serving homeless veterans in the Inland Empire. Now, I want us to look at the statistics that is supporting the impact, the positive and the negative impact of race culture over marriage. Now, let's look at interracial marriage has increased. According to the Pew Research Center, about 17% of newlyweds in the United States were marrying someone of a different race or ethnicity, and that was by 2025. Roughly 10% of all married couples were interracial or interethnic by that time. These numbers have continued to trend upward over recent decades. That's from the Pew Research Center. Intermarriage by groups, that's in the U.S. newlyweds. Approximate percentage marrying outside their race or ethnicity. Asians, 29%, Hispanics, 27%, Black Americans, 18%, White Americans, 11%. Among Black newlyweds, Black men were more likely than Black women to marry outside of their race. Among Asian newlyweds, Asian women were more likely than Asian men to do so, and that's also coming from the Pew Research Center. When we look at the statistics about Middle Eastern couples, national U.S. surveys generally have not reported Middle Eastern or North African populations as a separate long-term marriage category, making reliable comparisons difficult. Therefore, there are no widely accepted national marriage success or divorce rates specifically for Middle East Americans comparable to those for white, blacks, Asians, or Hispanics. And that is coming from the census.gov. Overall divorce patterns. Long-term U.S. labor data indicate that by the age of 55, approximately 87% of adults had married. About 40% had experienced at least one divorce. Among those who married, roughly 46% had divorced by the age of 55, with variations across racial and ethnic groups and by education. And that's coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Let's look at that which applies to the African American population. Within the African American communities, marriage has been influenced by numerous factors, including economic inequality, incarceration, educational disparities, health outcomes, and historical discrimination. Strong marriages certainly exist, but these broader social and economic pressures can affect marriage formation and stability. Researchers consistently find that higher education, stable employment, and strong social support are associated with better marital outcomes across all racial groups, and that is also coming from Bureau of Labor Statistics. We'll give our guest, Ms. Jeanetta, the opportunity to share with us from her therapeutic background and also her experience as an African American lady being married to an African. I'm an African, she's an African American lady, which means I traveled all the way from Africa to the United States and found me a beautiful and a wonderful lady. So we'll give her the opportunity to share the challenges that is faced by couples from different race and culture when they come together to marry. So can you help us with the challenges, which is the negative impact of race culture over marriages today?
Definitely. Thank you, Pastor Daniel. One of the biggest challenges I have seen is when couples allow culture to be the referee.
Oh, the culture
The
becomes
culture to become the referee. And that means that things show up like in my culture,
Right.
women are supposed to do this. In my culture,
Right.
men are supposed to do this.
Right.
Oh. In my culture, we don't do this. We don't do this in my culture. Oh, we don't behave like this in my culture. And so what I would say to cultural couples, interracial couples, is that culture should not be the conversation stopper. Culture should begin the conversation.
Okay, sounds good.
Right. Culture should definitely begin the conversation, because if culture does not begin the conversation, that means that there's no communication as to what the expectations are. So now you have a couple living together and no one knows the rules. And that's when the silent resentment begins to build up, and they think that the relationship is no longer workable. So it's important that the couples are in communication on the expectation, what it looks like.
Yes.
Now, you say, as far as our challenge, what particular question did you have pertaining to me, an African American woman, being married to you, a Ghanaian man?
Yeah.
What question did you have for me, Pastor Daniel?
Oh, I wanted you to share your experience.
What kind of experience?
I mean, let me look at a few questions.
Well, while you're looking for those questions, Pastor Daniel, you coming from Ghana, I was born in Louisiana. I was born in the South. So meeting you, I know it's different, but we have a lot of the similarities in reference to how a man is supposed to be treated. So it wasn't very difficult for me to adapt in that sense, in that area. However, when I first met you, I was always curious about the culture. See, if you're dating someone, you want to be curious about the culture. You never want it to be something unexpected when you get married. Because some topics that come up are, I didn't know you had to send money back home to take care of the family. That's not just the Ghanaian culture. That's many cultures, right? One of their beliefs is that family is very important. We take care of the family. If that's not in discussion, someone will say, well, my family needs money too. Why don't we send money to my family? But that's not in discussion. So all these things should be really in discussion when it comes to what are the expectations when it comes to cultural marriages. But what question did you have for me in particular?
I mean, if we're going to look at family acceptance, and how does the families from each side accept the man or the woman from the different culture or the different race that have come together to get married. So
I know in certain cultures, they have to meet the partner, right? To see if they are accepted into the family. I think that's very important. I know in my culture, you came to meet my parents and to introduce yourself. How did you feel about that?
well, I think they were very welcoming, but I don't know the background conversation. You know? But I think they were very welcoming. Um, and your mother
Oh,
had
she loved
always
you.
been fan of me, so I had a support
Mm-hmm.
of your mother.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much, I did not experience that much hindrances as far as I was doing everything right that I was supposed to do. So that's what I could say.
And then in reference to your culture.
Well, I think there's a lot of pushback coming from the African culture perspective when it comes to marrying outside of the race because they have all these stereotypes.
Yeah.
And that's the bigger issue that a couple have to deal with and the family have to be accepting of this marriage relationship. Is there's so much stereotypes that drive people away from coming together to marry outside the African race.
Definitely.
So that is what I've experienced, and also, and the stereotypes come from the culture because most Africans have been raised through a certain culture that has defined the way they think, the way they resolve issues, who they become friends with, and their expectations in life. It's like culture is a way of life. So when a person have been raised up in that type of culture, it influences their mindset. And that's why earlier I was mentioning that the children from this type of marriages have the opportunity to learn from each culture. And also, it has to be approached with open mindedness. You have to have an open mind to um, uh, going outside your race to get married. And you need to study the culture, you need to study the race, the likes and the dislikes, the do's and the don'ts. Is go with both, but when it comes to most Africans think outside, like maybe typical Americans do not have culture, and that brings it brings confusion.
Definitely.
It brings confusion, and also since the African has been raised with so much culture, they expect you to also subscribe to that culture when you
Correct.
come into
Yes.
marriage. But I think it goes both ways that we learn and take what is good that is going to help and take out what is going to hurt the relationship or the marriage.
And so they would have to build their own culture together.
Right.
Right. What do we take from your culture? What do I take from my culture?
Right.
What can we take? What do we take out? How
Right.
can we make this work for us? Now, to circle back to your initial statement, Pastor Daniel, I felt very fortunate coming into your family. And I know there's stereotypes, but one thing I will say is when you're going into a marriage, one thing you don't want to do is take that person away from their family, right? The
Right.
idea should never be like, I'm going to have this person all to myself, because when you marry someone, you just don't marry that person, you marry the entire family.
Right.
They become part of you. And so when it came to your sisters, which I call my sisters, I love to pieces, and mommy, you know, and your brothers, it was seamless. Like, I loved the whole family. So it was easy for me to embrace your family because they're so loving, and it was easy for me to be authentically myself.
Right.
And I think that's important, you know, being able to be open to the whole entire family without feeling threatened by the family. Because when you feel threatened by the family, that's when the pushback comes and you're trying to separate that person from their family. I think that's important.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We so some couples face disapproval, pressure to marry within their own culture,
Mm-hmm.
religious objections, language barriers, and cultural misunderstanding. So there's a lot of friction that could come along with that. Now let's look at different gender expectations, because we may mention that these couples will have to deal with issues that involve gender roles and marriage rules. So examples will include who manages money.
Who's the head of the house?
Right.
Right? Not just who's managing the money, who's the head of the house? And whoever's managing the money, does the other person have to get approval over a certain amount?
Right.
So,
Right. But I've heard of cultures or ethnic group or culture from Africa where they solely marry within the culture, and they look for professionals and bring them over where they could take solely control over the finances. So the woman will have to go and work and bring all the paycheck to the man. And the man make decisions about where the money goes, what the money does. And sometimes the man is not even working, but because they have the capability to go all the way to that country in Africa and pick up a woman and sponsor them to come. They pick up somebody that is a career woman or a professional, and that could be even more than them. And then they control the finance. And I think that could bring a lot of negativity and hindrance for someone to actually grow. That you have to go to the man to even ask for money to buy your hygiene stuff, or petty stuff that you need to survive.
but Pastor Daniel, this is important in the dating stages to understand this, what it will look like to be married to this person. Because again, it shouldn't be a surprise what it will look like. You have to understand the culture that you're marrying into. So it's not like once you get married, you think everything's going to change and this person is going to adapt to the American culture. When you have married a cultural person, absolutely not. You have married into this culture, and therefore you're saying, I am comfortable with this and I'm agreeing to be part of the culture. Because what I have seen is that maybe someone from Africa will marry an American woman, and then that American woman will begin to, oh, actually, maybe two people from Africa will get married. They'll come here, and then that woman will begin to socialize with the other American women, and then they'll begin to adapt to their beliefs and their culture, and then they'll try to bring that home to their husband. And he'll say, that doesn't work here, right? You can't bring what you're learning from these relationships that's not part of our culture and bring it to our home. And that's what I have seen. So it's important to collect all of this stuff. This is data that you're collecting before you're actually marrying someone.
Right. But when it comes to that, like the same culture and issues that could bring, breakage in the relationship or marriage or divorce, you might not know about it because sometimes they'll go all the way down. I'm more familiar with Africa, so they might go all the way down to Ghana or Nigeria or wherever, any African country, and bring the woman over who might not have that knowledge or have the means to do a research and find out all things that they need to know, like what the trend is when it comes to relationship, marriage rules and responsibilities as in regards to the man or the woman. So that's where they take advantage of until the woman comes in, and then they find out, oh, you cannot keep me in a box.
Yes.
Now I'm going to work, and then I'm meeting people from different racial, ethnic background. I'm meeting Caucasians, I'm meeting Hispanics, I'm meeting Asians, I'm meeting African Americans. So the woman begin to learn, the ways how things are supposed to be done versus what the culture expectation and rule is. And that could be, I know most Africans will not marry. I don't know about other race. Find it difficult to marry outside the culture. Not the race, because race we have blacks everywhere. Because they want a woman that could cook traditional African food. And sometimes that is the number one priority, for them not to marry outside the culture, because they want a woman that could cook, the African tradition very well. That's why they will travel all the way to their native countries outside the United States to marry a woman and bring over. So when that is broken, then it means you are heading down the path of divorce. Because now you're not cooking, you're working, maybe you're working long hours over the week, you're tired, you can't cook, and the man is expected to step in and cook, also to help around the house, to take care of the kids, to change diapers, to clean and sweep, and do things that, in the African, or let's use as a Ghanaian culture, is a role of the woman. Right. So when you were to be living in maybe Ghana, or let's say Ghana, that taking care of the house, all chores and all responsibilities when it comes to cooking, cleaning, and all those roles is solely for the woman. Where your in-laws will even frown over or begin to fight you if they come and visit and they see that that's not something you're doing, but your husband also have to chip in. But that's supposed to be the norm. So these marriages will be successful if there's that kind of understanding, where there's flexibility as to how we apply the culture when it comes to this marriage. Now, you have...
I think that's very important, and that goes back to communication. And if this couple really does love each other, they're going to do what they need to do to establish their own culture without feeling that they have to abandon important parts of their culture. But this is important to me, and what role can you play, because I need you to play this role. Is that okay with you?
Right.
Being in communication about that.
Right, that's good. Awesome. Now, we also could look at different gender expectations, such as who cares for the aging parents, who stays home with the children, how much influence do grandparents have?
That's important.
Right. Who stays home with the children?
That's really
important. Who cares for
important.
aging parents? And how much influence do grandparents have?
I know in my experience culturally, it has fell on me to take care of the parents, right? Whether it's my parents, your parents, and that's what I wanted to do, right? Because I love mommy. But I think when it comes to a couple coming together, it's important to identify who's going to do this role, and do you have the capacity to do it, and are you doing it out of a loving heart? Are you going to do it grudgingly? That should be in discussion.
Be something that is discussed.
Yes.
Even before the dating and coming together.
Yes.
So
that should definitely be in discussion. Also, who stays home with the children, because is it okay for someone to stay home with the children? Is that permissible? Or do you have to work and then go home, get the house together, and then go get the children? What does that look like? And are you able to reach out for support if you do need support? It all goes, everything really goes back to asking the right questions, not just asking questions, but asking the right questions to get a better understanding of what are the expectations that you have in this marriage.
Right. And it is work with us because I'm flexible.
Yes.
Even though you stay home with the kids most of the time, they are growing ages, but I'm flexible to step in and chip in
here and there.
Right, to help out. But in certain situations, there's a conflict
Yes.
because technically with those cultures or an
Mhm.
African culture, the raising and the taking care of the children from infancy up, it's a sole responsibility of the woman. And so therefore the woman, if someone is supposed to stay home and take care of the kids, it will be the woman. And the man goes out and work and bring money. Now,
Well, in reference to that, Pastor Daniel, I feel very fortunate because I was able to work from home all of these years to support the children. But it wasn't until I decided to go back to school that's when I started experiencing a little conflict. But we were able to be in communication about that,
right,
and
we worked it out
we
and
worked it
with
out
understanding,
with
which
understanding.
is still being done as we speak. It's not over yet. Now, how much influence do grandparents have? How much influence do grandparents have? Because, well, I was not that stringent or strict. I mean, your parents were, they were so much involved in the children's life, and they were a big, huge blessing. Your parents have been a big, huge blessing. And I could not forget how your mother in blessed memory will, I mean, when Christmas is coming, the house is full of goods.
Oh my
They
goodness.
spend thousands
Yeah.
of dollars just buying the
Thousands, yeah.
kids gifts and stuff. They were very involved, and I think it's very healthy. It's very healthy to some extent that the grandparents get involved in, and other extent to they spoil the kids. So
Yes.
then the marriage couples wanna push back because they all I realize that there's that uh, uh, misunderstanding that grandparents spoil grandchildren.
They
And
do.
I've even had some grandmothers saying, "Oh, they bring them over and I sugar them up and
Yeah.
I send
Send
them
them back.
over
Yeah.
to
Yes.
go and act up at home."
It's very true.
Right.
It's very true. I quite remember how, you know, my parents used to do that, take them home and get them all the goodies, bring them back, house full of noisemakers and all that stuff. But again, I feel very fortunate. I feel very blessed.
Yes.
Um, between my parents and your family, I feel that I have married into an amazing family because
Good,
when
good.
it comes to grandparents have so much influence over not just the children, but the family as a whole.
Right.
And one thing I learned is that the only desire, from what I have seen, I only can speak from my experience, is that our children's grandparents only want to pour into them,
Right.
teach them something.
Right.
And so culturally, with mommy, your mom, which I'm always going to call her mommy,
Right.
she makes it a point to want to teach the children the language. She wants to teach them how to cook. She wants to teach them how to be strong, independent children.
Right.
With my parents, they want to teach them how to fix things and do this
Right.
and be the best version of themselves. So grandparents have a huge amount of influence in the lives of the grandchildren. I just think it's important for the parents to be in communication, like to allow the grandparents to be that grandparent in their lives.
Right. And with the language barriers, I know we highlighted it, but we did not dive into it. How have you dealt with language barrier? Because the African language and the English, sometimes you have family people coming around, they speaking the African language, and you'll be left at the background. You don't even understand what they're saying. And I know this is a joke, so and you made a joke that your mother
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
"Oh, you going over there? These people speaking the language here. You don't know if they want to cook you.
That
They
was
wanna cook you. They wanna kill you
That
and
was-
cook you." And prepare soup.
That's not my mom.
But that's just a joke. That's just a joke. I understood what she meant. So yeah, the language could be a very big issue, and how, because your experience you share is also gonna help someone that's dealing with, language barriers since they are married with a partner from a different race or culture.
Now, Pastor Daniel, I had to piggyback on that story. That was when we first met.
Right.
We
That's the
first
courting.
met.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
that's when we
dating.
first met.
Yeah.
And everyone had, but it was my mom. Everyone had concerns that I wasn't
Right.
familiar
Yeah.
with.
And it's genuine.
It's genuine.
Yeah.
It's genuine. But when it comes to culture, if that person doesn't take the time to learn the language at the same time, I don't think it's fair to stop the partner from speaking their native language. I don't. For me,
Well,
I'm just
then, I mean, you've made some efforts, but
yeah,
you
right,
cannot always get it like,
right. Yes,
how
definitely,
it's supposed to.
right.
But
And
how the issue is how the other party feels when a language is being spoken around them and they don't understand what is being said.
well, it depends on what's showing up for them inside. Are they getting angry? Are they getting anxiety? Are they getting resentful? What's showing up for them? For me, again, I've been
What I'm
grateful.
saying is that you have to be very flexible
Well,
to
you have to
deal
be
with
flexible,
a
yes.
situation
But
like
for
that.
me, again, fortunate, you always include me in the conversation.
Right,
Okay,
give
this
you
is
like
what
highlighted this,
highlights what they're talking about
right.
so that there's no anxiety or anger or resentfulness there. It's just like I'm still part of the conversation.
Right.
So I think it's checking in with your partner to see how they're feeling.
About
So if they're
transpiring.
feeling isolated, if they're feeling left out, that should be in discussion. How can I make you feel more comfortable when family comes around, rather than that person suppressing what they're feeling and now resentment showing up like, oh my God, your family is coming. I can't stand your family, right? That's not right? So that should be in communication. So, hey, I really feel uncomfortable. There was one time when we first met, we drove all the way to Arizona, and I believe it was an 8-hour drive. We had just met, yeah. And well, not just met, but it was fairly new. And you had a family member in the car, and you guys talked the whole way there, the whole way there. But I was okay with it, okay? Because the one thing I didn't want to do was separate you from your culture. So I knew it was very important. But things like this should be in communication, because someone else would have blew up, right?
Right. And as an advice, if these expectations aren't discussed before marriage, conflict can arise. Now, another expectation is religion. Religion remains one of the strongest predicators of marital harmony. Couples from different religious backgrounds may disagree over worship, raising children, holiday observances, dietary practice, lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
So these are some of the challenges when it comes to religion.
Yeah.
And you have it.
Only thing I have to say about that is that it's important to communicate on the expectations when it comes to religion. Right.
So I'm thinking the best of advice is that many successful couples address these issues before the marriage.
Yes.
These issues should be addressed before the marriage.
Definitely.
Yes. Let's look at communication styles. Some cultures value direct communication. Others emphasize harmony and avoiding confrontation. But I believe neither style is wrong, but misunderstandings can occur if couples interpret one another through different cultural lenses.
That's huge.
Because different cultures have the way the genders should address each other.
I think that's huge, because I know in the American culture, sometimes it can be a little relaxed, right? But I know initially when we first met,
Right, that aggressiveness, aggressive. I mean, the African culture do not expect a woman to be aggressive when they are addressing a man, more so a husband. So that was an issue.
Well,
and
yeah.
and over time, you you understood that, and you find a better way of
Well, a
communication.
communication, especially when you're triggered, right? There's a way that you communicate, but this was all learned in the dating stages,
Right.
right? You can't get to the marital stage if you
you
can't
don't
work
handle
all of this
this
stuff in
stuff,
the
right?
dating stages.
Right.
So, like, is it acceptable to say, "What are you talking about? You sound crazy,"
Right.
right? Is
Right,
that
because even that, I hear people address, oh, fool, oh, stupid. But that's an insult when you address an African man like that. That's a typical insult.
definitely?
I mean, you could be cooked up for that, you know. But the American culture is like a joke. Oh no, they could address you fool or stupid. You being stupid, So these are some of the differences.
Or call the B word,
Right.
right?
That should
Yeah.
be that should be understood.
It
Yeah.
should be understood very
Right.
early on, and that's what we had to do very early on in our relationship, because you saw different relationships in our family,
Right.
and you were like, "Ooh, ooh, yeah, oh no,
Right.
that
You can't
ooh."
talk to me like that. Right. Awesome. You had
But
okay.
again, I can't stress the importance of setting the tone of the expectations. No one's asking you to be a rug to walk on. However, it's important to understand, as a man in my culture, this is how I request to be treated. And as a woman in my culture, this is how I request to be treated. I think that should be in communication.
That's good. Awesome. Awesome. So let's look at marriage stability. Research suggests interracial marriages may have a slightly higher average risk of divorce than same race marriages, but the difference varies substantially depending on these factors: education, income, age at marriage, religious compatibility, family support, and specific racial pairing. Many researchers conclude that socioeconomic factors and relationship quality explain much of the difference rather than the race itself. And this coming from the Legal Clarity research, that we understand that all these factors could help sustain interracial or diverse culture marriages. And but before we end, I will ask you to share some of your experiences. What do you think you did that have made your marriage successful?
That's a great
As
question.
an African American woman married to an African man, so that's same race but different cultures.
I would definitely say putting God first in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
That was vital, right? Because especially when you're upset with one another, you may not agree or you don't understand something. Putting God first was essential for me, because a lot of times, especially in the very beginning, I may not have agreed with a lot of decisions and I would get upset about it. But I heard the voice of the Lord say, just pray about it.
Right.
Just pray about it. And also, what was important for me was understanding the time to talk to you.
Right.
Like when you come home from work, that's not the best time to talk to you. Or when you're at work, that's not the best time to talk to you about something that's frustrating me. It's an important time. It's important to identify the time to talk to your partner. That was important for me. It took me a while to get that, because we know when something was pressing, whether it was about the kids or finances, I just thought it was important right when it came to my mind. But that's not the case. And also being understanding and being open. Right? Being flexible, being able to compromise, sacrifice, but putting God first, that was
your man.
Yes,
Man.
definitely.
Support. Well, I also have mine, and that I don't know, but to me, what I was looking at is a woman that what will prevent me from marrying an American is a woman that will not support financial support to your family. So So I was looking at that factor because there have been so many stories. Because in the American culture is only the immediate family,
Right.
you, your wife, and your children, and it's okay because there's a plethora of support from everywhere. If you don't support your family, they can go on
Yeah.
social welfare. There's all kinds of government support that your extended family could depend on. So they necessarily don't have to depend on you. But with the African culture or the Ghanaian culture, you are raised with the support of all people, your uncles, everybody helps you out. And when you travel outside the country to like America,
Yeah.
they are expecting you to be the number one source of financial support and help for the family.
Very true.
So that becomes a challenge if you are married to a woman that will not support that. Because everybody is looking at you and depending on you. And as somebody had helped you get to where you are, it's expected that you also do the same. And then I know about the food, doing the dating other women and stuff like that before getting into stable marriage. Is the food somehow even the food could be described as a smell? And I remember one time I was cooking and I had visitors. The moment they busted in there, they were saying, the food, the whole place is stinking, the whole place is smelling, and stuff like that. But that is like an insult, for someone's food that you're going out, clearing your throat to spit out and stuff like that. Just imagine that, as a huge insult. But also, you were able to learn how to cook some food, or if you can't learn, you find a way to provide it. So that was good.
I have to give credit to your sisters and also to my little brother, Alex, right? All of them were essential because I remember one time I had left your soup out overnight and you were so upset about it. And Alex said, no problem. I'll teach you how to cook the soup. So he taught me how to cook the soup. And then your sisters came over and they showed me how to make, it was jollof rice and wache and all of that. So again, I feel blessed. I have my dishes I can touch on and all of that. But that was important for me to learn. Yeah, it was important for me to learn.
That's a deal breaker for an African man with the African food, So, well, overall, so the best advice that if you're going to marry outside your race or your culture, you take time to learn some of these things so that you will have a successful relationship or marriage. Closing up, anything you want to add?
I hope that if someone is interested in marrying outside of their race or even marriage in general, they'll take a look at this podcast because I think you have touched on a lot of important points.
Right.
And one thing I have noticed is that even the other day I told you that someone reached out to me and said, oh, my daughter married a man from this country, and just inquiring, right? Inquire, ask her, what is it like to be married to such and such? Now keep it nice, keep it very nice, because I remember I was getting the car service and I said I was married to a Ghanaian. The people came carry all these. I said, oh no, I'm not married. I'm not married to no one like that. But when you inquire, keep it nice, right? Keep it respectful, because you want to collect information. You don't want to come with any negativity. But I hope you come across this podcast. I hope it's very helpful for you. That will encourage you to do your research on the culture or the person you desire to marry.
Awesome. Well, closing thoughts. Race and culture can enrich a marriage by expanding perspectives, traditions, and understanding. They can also introduce challenges related to family expectations, communication, and identity.
Yeah.
The evidence suggests that while cultural differences may require more intentional effort, they do not determine whether a marriage will succeed. Strong marriages are built through trust, commitment, adaptability, number one, and respect, qualities that transcend racial, cultural boundaries. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this discussion, subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who values healthy relationship. Until next time, remember, lasting marriages are strengthened not by the absence of differences, but by the way couples choose to navigate them together. How couples choose to navigate differences together. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Gotta get the money, Oh,